Hello, welcome. Thank you for joining us on this edition of News 2. I'm Sandra Gumansing. Topping our newscast, the Virgin Islands Police Department's Commissioner Delroy Richards Sr. announced territorial staffing changes effective immediately. The VI's 2 chief of police were relieved of their duties and 2 acting chiefs were immediately appointed. The police commissioner says it was a change he was contemplating and that it was a necessary move. Virgin Islands Police Department Commissioner Delroy Richards Sr. announced territorial staffing changes that were effective immediately on June 1st. Arthur S. Hector St. Croix, Chief of Police, has been relieved of his duties and responsibilities, as well as Darren M. Foy, Chief of Police for the St. Thomas St. John District.
Both chiefs of police have been assigned with this department from 2015. When we came on board, even though they were assigned with the previous administration. One of the things we decided was to obviously do an assessment of performance.
Just last month, as we reported, the Law Enforcement Supervisors Union, Local 118, and the Policemen Benevolent Association delivered a letter to Governor Kenneth Mapp and Police Commissioner Richards to discuss their concerns about the poor leadership. Richards said, however, the changes are being made to help the department meet the mandates of the federal consent decree.
Our consent decree, obviously, when we went to court during the last quarter, which was several weeks ago, we felt also that we have to revisit our strategy. So again, along that line, we have been making some restructuring within the department to bring us greater response to the consent decree. We have a next quarter coming out, I think it's August of this year. So we have to be able to meet the mandates set by the court.
Mr. Winsbutt McFarland has been designated as Acting Chief of Police for the Virgin Islands Police Department St. Croix District. Sergeant Jason Marsh has been designated as Acting Chief of Police St. Thomas St. John District.
Chief Foy, he worked with this department for in excess of 20 years. He was a sergeant. He worked with the street crime unit. He also graduated from the FBI Academy. Same like Chief Hector on St. Croix. He was a police lieutenant before ascending to the position. He too is a veteran of the police department in St. Croix. And I'd like to take this opportunity to thank both of them for their contributions to the police department over the years. The incoming acting chiefs, however, Jason Mash on St. Thomas. Jason Mash was the acting director for the Internal Affairs Unit. He holds a classified rank as sergeant. He's also a former member of the FBI Street Crime Task Force on St. Croix. Winsbutt McFarland, he's a former acting police chief, and he's a graduate of the FBI Academy. He knows the streets. He headed up the special ops assignments in the territory for several months, and I believe he's a good candidate for the position. Well, we will be restructuring the department in a manner that would bring us greater efficiency.
Now, the police department has come into compliance with about 30 paragraphs of the consent decree. 20 paragraphs are still out of compliance. This was revealed during a progress hearing just last week in federal court. Meanwhile, the VI Police Department is asking for your assistance in locating Waldemar Martinez. Take a look at this mugshot. Martinez is a 24-year-old Hispanic male born on St. Croix that goes by the alias Waldy. He's approximately 5'11", 140 pounds, hazel eyes, dark brown hair with a light complexion with tattoos between his left thumb and index finger. With the tattoo of the word Gaza on the back of his right hand, Mr. Martinez frequents the Bethlehem Village and Mutual Homes on St. Croix. If located, you should call 911 or 340-2211. You can make contact with Detectives Charlery at 340-712-6026, the Criminal Investigation Bureau DV Unit, or Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS. Speaking of Crime Stoppers, police are still searching for a suspect in the Thursday, May 26 shooting in Estate Concordia that left a man with a gunshot wound to the leg. And call Crime Stoppers if you have any information that can assist at 1-800-222-TIPS.
A barrage of bullets could be heard throughout Frederickstead. Police believe that the individuals in the area witnessed suspects leaving the area or may have witnessed this incident itself. Your assistance in helping the Virgin Islands Police Department solve this matter is greatly appreciated. If any of you have information pertaining to this incident, please notify Crime Stoppers at 1-800-222-TIPS, www.crimestoppersvi.org, or www.p3tips.com, or download the free mobile app at P3Tips onto your mobile device and be able to leave any tip at any time.
Senators convened in legislative session chaired by Senate President Neville James Thursday at the Earl B. Otley Legislative Hall, where they approved a measure granting an exclusive franchise to operate all public marine transportation in the St. Thomas-St. John District. Bill number 31-0332 was unanimously approved. Legislators also voted on the renomination of Honorable Harold Willocks as judge of the Superior Court of the VI, Dr. Michelle Davis as Commissioner for the Department of Health, Renee Gums-Cardy as judge for the Superior Court of the Virgin Islands, and Terry Griffiths as a member of the Magens Bay Authority. While all nominations were approved, some were met with hesitation. Senators expressed that their reservations to approve the nominations of Dr. Michelle Davis and Terry Griffiths stemmed from a difference of opinion relative to procedure. Approved also was Bill 31-0361, an act appropriating $135,000 from the general fund to the Department of Sports, Parks and Recreation for the Virgin Islands Little League to participate in the 2016 baseball regional tournaments. And as we reported, the Committee on Education and Workforce Development, chaired by Senator Jean Ford, received a status update from Department of Education on Wednesday at the Otley Legislative Hall. Now, the discussion spanned a slew of topics. Rosa Soto Thomas, president of the American Federation of Teachers, spoke about the deteriorating infrastructure of schools on St. Croix. She said some classes are moved around daily because teachers rightfully refuse to teach in rooms that leak and are inundated with a musty mold smell. The minuscule appropriation for maintenance, she said, needs to be increased. Avery Lewis, president AFT Local 1825, concurred and added that because of such unbearable, inhumane conditions, extending the school year should be out of the question. Catherine Hendry, Commissioner of the Department of Labor, gave an update relative to summer employment programs, the establishment of federally approved apprenticeship programs, Division of Labor Relations, and the department's position regarding overtime, compensatory time, and work hours. Central High School classes and other news were dismissed early this afternoon, but this was due to accommodate a scheduled monthly job-embedded professional development for teachers. The Virgin Islands Department of Education St. Croix District announced and reminded parents and students of that early dismissal. Students were served lunch prior to dismissal, and buses arrived around 1 p.m. to transport students to their drop-off locations. Classes will resume regular schedules on Friday, June 3rd. GERS Administrator Austin Nibbs reported that on May 31st, 2016, the GERS received the first $7 million under Act number 7261, which is Bill number 29-0123, which was passed by the 29th Legislature on July 11th, 2011. That act called for appropriating in fiscal year ending September 30th, 2013, and all subsequent fiscal years, the sum of $7 million from the Internal Revenue Matching Fund to the GERS as a direct contribution. The balance that is due through September 30th is $21 million. Mr. Nibbs thanked former Senators Dow, White, and Russell for moving this measure to the floor in the 29th Legislature in an effort to reduce the unfunded liability, the 31st Legislature as well, and the MAP administration. Democratic Party of the VI conducted early voting as part of its Democratic caucus to select its preference for presidential nominee and delegates to the 2016 Democratic National Convention today for the first time. It started from about 4 p.m., continues until 8. Early voting was set aside to afford voters who are inconvenienced, they say, in one way or another, an alternative date to the scheduled caucus date. The Democratic Party caucus will take place on Saturday, June 4th from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. on all 3 islands, with 1 caucus precinct on each island. The caucus precincts are on St. Thomas at Windward Passage Hotel, St. Croix at Gertrude's Restaurant, and St. John at Fred's Restaurant. And here is more about the caucus on Saturday, June 4th. The Virgin Islands will make its voice heard in that 2016 Democratic presidential primary. Any registered Democrat is eligible to participate. VI Democrats will join throughout St. Croix, St. John, and St. Thomas in their precincts to begin the process of registering their preferences for Democratic candidates running for president. This is a chance for the party to come together under one big tent to decide who will be nominated to president in 2016. That again will be held Saturday, June 4th, 10 a.m. in the Democratic National Convention. Again, that one is July 2nd to the 5th, July 2nd in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Hillary Clinton is clinging to a narrow 2-point lead over Bernie Sanders in California ahead of the state's June 7th primary, and that's according to results from a new NBC News Wall Street Journal Marist poll. Clinton gets support from 49% of likely Democratic primary voters in the state, while Sanders gets 47%, which is within the survey's statistical margin of error. And among a wider electorate of all potential Democratic voters in California, Sanders is actually ahead by 1 point, 48% to 47%. Clinton and Sanders running even in California wouldn't affect the overall delegate math in the Democratic race, where Clinton leads Sanders by some 270 pledged delegates and 770 overall delegates. Well, authorities believe Minik Sarkar walked onto the university's campus Wednesday and shot Professor William Klug. Sarkar is listed on a website for Klug's research group, and an online abstract of his 2013 doctoral dissertation lists Klug as his advisor. Police believe the UCLA former student felt the professor had released information that, quote, harmed him. The LAPD asked Minnesota authorities to search Sarkar's home. They're based on a note he left at the scene. They say they found multiple items, including a so-called kill list. On that list was the name of another UCLA professor and a Minnesota woman. Officials later found her dead by gunshot wound. Investigators believe her homicide occurred before the shooting in Los Angeles. The other UCLA professor on the list is unharmed. Keeping our eye on the economy, let's take a look at the stock market watch at the New York Stock Exchange. As you can see, everything up. The Dow 48, NASDAQ 19, S&P 5. Coming up on News 2, the American Red Cross of the VI stands ready to lend a hand in need now that we're in the hurricane season, but they also need your help. Details coming up. Let's take a look at some of the commencement exercises scheduled for some junior high school. Elena Christian, we're looking at June 14th, 9 a.m. at the school. John H. Woodson, June 15th, 9 a.m. at the school. Arthur Richards, June 16th, also at the school. Adelita Cancrine, June 20th, 9:30 at the auditorium. BCB on June 20th as well, 10 a.m. at the auditorium. Julius E. Sproul, June 21st at St. John, 5:30 p.m. cafeteria. Now, St. Peter and Paul Cathedral ceremony is presently underway at the UVI Sports and Fitness Center. The Virgin Islands delegation to China, led by Governor Kenneth Mapp, is busy. The group's first scheduled meeting was with Air China this morning, followed by an engagement with United States Ambassador to China, Max Baucus, and Minister Counselor for Commercial Affairs, Sarah Kemp, at the U.S. Embassy. The day is concluding with the meeting with ArcLight executives. Friday will be devoted to meetings with Sinopec, a partner in the St. Croix Lime Tree Bay Terminal operation and Asia's largest oil refinery. On the first day of the 2016 Atlantic hurricane season, the interim chief executive officer of the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority, Julio Reimer Sr. met with his division directors and managers for a full review of WAPA's emergency response capabilities to any storm system that may affect the VI. He said windstorms such as tropical storms and hurricanes are the biggest threat to the electrical transmission and distribution systems. He said the meeting provided the opportunity to review where they are in terms of equipment, inventory of spare parts and supplies, and overall operations, and confident that WAPA is prepared. Meanwhile, the 6-month hurricane season that began Wednesday through the end of November, experts are calling for an above-normal hurricane season. Local agencies, such as the American Red Cross of the VI, they stand ready to lend a hand in need, but they also need your help.
As you know, American Red Cross is a volunteer-run agency, non-profit, not-for-profit, just for service. And we're always in need of volunteers, so people are welcome to sign up any day. And like I said, the information that we disseminate is very important for not just a small disaster, any disaster. In case of a hurricane, the Red Cross provides sheltering information. We actually run the shelters and provide all that information will be disseminated to the public once there is a storm active and shelters are open.
In other news, Senator Kenneth Gittens advised the public of a significant grant award that took place today that will allow for beneficial energy efficiency upgrades at the Carambola Golf Club. He said the USDA Rural Development Office grant, close to $125,000, is the largest grant that they have awarded in the territory under the Rural Energy for America program. The program is open to all small businesses and agricultural producers and can reimburse up to 25% of project costs. The funds will be used for the installation of 76 kilowatt solar array, which will be used for the operation of the clubhouse complex. The funds will also be used for the purchase and installation of a 220 kilowatt lithium storage battery that will supply nighttime power for the entire facility, plus two 30 kilowatt propane generators, which will reduce energy cost, will be installed. The St. Croix Track Club attended the 25th Bay Area Youth Track and Field Classic in Tampa, Florida at the University of South Florida facility. The event hosts over 1,500 athletes. STXTC, they accumulated 253 points with 16 athletes to win Group 3 over Impact athletes from Atlanta, Georgia, with 150 points. Malik Smith, who just completed his freshman year at University of Arkansas Pine Bluff, earned the Most Valuable Athlete Award for placing first in the 800 meter and at 400 and second in the triple jump and the high jump. He also broke a 5-year-old sprint medley record. The athletes were Anelia Ostry, Anika Benders, Markella Monchery, and Michaela Smith.